start with Barney from Napalm Death. If you can just go ahead and formally introduce yourself and give us your role in the band.
Sure. Afternoon, everybody. Yes, Barney Greenway, or Mark Barney Greenway from Napalm Death, singer of sorts, and that's about long and short of it, really. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You guys are early on tour with the Big Slayer final tour, and just on an off date here tonight in Cleveland. How's the tour going so far?
Yeah, it's different for us. It's certainly a lot bigger. There's a lot more things going on that ordinarily I would sort of take care of myself or the other guys in the band. So it is interesting to see that, because although Napalm's been around for over many years, 30 something years now, it's not very often we get to see that stuff, and being quite self-contained as a band, it is, it's interesting to see. But I do have to say that, like everybody on that tour, there's always an opportunity to get some people who like want to treat you like, you're some kind of untermensch or something like that, and, but they've been really nice to us, everybody, so that's a good thing, because we, my personal opinion, you it doesn't matter who you are on a tour, you deserve to be treated with dignity,
Sure.
There's no excuse to treat people like shit, so.
Absolutely. There's a pretty big difference in size of venue, for example. Do you have a preference for the type of venue you like to play?
Treat
like
everything.
Big arenas?
Yeah, treat everything the same. That's
okay.
The first thing to say. I think it's the mark of a band that you don't change your aesthetic, or anything for anything. You almost must do what drives you in the first place, But I would say, having said that, though, preference for venues, well, of course, Napalm Death certainly lends itself to, small shows,
Sure.
with people there, basically,
Right.
no barriers and stuff, Unfortunately, there are times when you don't get that choice to not have barriers because of insurance, venues insurance.
Yeah.
But, generally speaking, it's nice to be able to smell people's breath,
Yeah. The intimacy of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fairly recently, you guys put out a collection of songs, B-sides, so on, Coded Smears and More Uncommon Slurs.
Yeah.
How's the reception been?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, the thing is that the idea to have a compilation album has been over the last year or so, and usually the idea of a compilation album, I'm a bit reluctant because I don't want to put stuff out that people have already been able to easily get hold of, But there was a lot of stuff out there in the last 10 years or so that was either very low release or small release on compilations for other labels, or splits, splits that we'd done.
Sure.
So that kind of some quite limited pressings. So there was enough stuff there to justify a compilation.
Sure.
And not only that, there was fucking tons of it, So, to my mind, if you can get like 30 tracks of stuff, put 30 tracks of stuff out there,
Yeah.
So it all worked out pretty good, I think. And the artworks, in my opinion, is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like that.
I've seen the artwork. Tell me about the idea behind the artist and so on.
Well, the actual influence for that to me is like on the side of the Napalm influences that are kind of have been a little bit more on the fringe, like Swans, Big Black, that kind of stuff. If you've seen the Big Black Headache sleeve, which is one of the first sleeves where a guy's basically blown his head off, but it's like folded so you don't see it at first, That's a pretty wild sleeve for as long ago as it was, So we love that kind of visual deformity, mutilation kind of stuff, and obviously the sort of general idea is you got the mouth with the bars across, and also kind of a lobotomization of sorts on the back. So it was from both sides, you know,
Sure.
the sensory control, you know. It's not a new concept in artwork, but I think the artwork is in itself is quite striking, you know.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. I always find it interesting, and I know I've read other interviews, you've talked about this idea before, but this tension between what you guys stand for, your humanitarian mission and your lyrics and so on, versus this type of imagery and the chaotic sound of napalm death.
Definitely. That's the art side of the band, because we are a band at the end of the day, you know.
Sure.
We're not just people on a soapbox. So I see nothing wrong in entertaining people, you know, or making artistic like statements, I suppose, or contradictions, you know, because you've got that, like I say, you've got that very sort of peaceful ethos, you know, and then you've got that very, very violent noise attack, you know, so the two are, you know, very contradictory, you know, but obviously the music's not going to put a gun in your face and blow your head off, you know, so that's the point, you know.
I understand there's a new album, new full length in the works.
Yeah, in the works, definitely, but I don't think it's not going to be till next year.
Okay.
Basically, the music's pretty much done. It's just for me to get my fucking arse in gear and, you know, get on with it, basically.
Sure.
So.
Can you tell me about the songwriting process on that album?
Same as it ever was, to be honest. I mean, we write very traditionally, as if we've still got, like, fucking tape recorders that you used to stand up in a rehearsal room. It's moved on a little bit. I mean, they've got like 4-track recorders now, but we're still we use very basic setups, you know. And then so the guys will come up with the stuff, and then I'll take it away, and I'll already have kind of segments of lyrics that I want to use. But I always try and keep it current.
Sure.
You know, one thing from the lyrical side of things, what I try to avoid is making generic statements. So, you know, anti-war, this, that. Yeah, well, we all know about that now. But you've got to, in order to get stuff across, I think you got to relate it to present times and present things. You know.
That actually, my next question has to do with just that. In the era of Trump, in the era of other right-wing leaders coming to power around the world.
Sure.
How has that influenced your lyric writing for?
Well, I mean, to be honest, the effects that these people have although it seems more severe right now and more pronounced because you've got somebody like Trump that doesn't try and hide under the parapet, you know. I would say, I would sort of put this out there, are times really that different than what we can remember? If you really think about it, they're not, you know. I mean, for sure, the attacks on the environment, you know, are really fucking worrying. The attacks on women's right to choose, you know, and how they control their own bodies, that's very worrying, you know. But generally speaking, it's kind of the same stuff, you know, that's been going on. What I worry about is one thing that you mentioned in your question is, like in Europe, we have an experience of like, you know, fascist mindset really blossoming, you know, and coming to the fore, and that getting to the point where people are dying, you know, in hundreds and thousands because of that stuff. We have some of those movements are again springing up in southern Eastern Europe and have legitimacy. They're actually legitimised by the governments of those countries. Right. So what I worry about is that with Europe sort of breaking apart a little bit, you know, on a human level, I'm talking about like European unity, you know, amongst, you know, promoting humanitarianism and stuff like that, that's kind of dissipating a little bit. And I think when Europe starts to splinter, these movements really start to gain momentum. And what I'm worried about is another war in Europe, you know. I think it could happen. I mean, I have always tried to be a pacifist, you know. And I know that sounds a little bit strange, you shouldn't have to try to be one. But it's very challenging sometimes, you know, given what's happening. And I think if we had a situation where another Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, something like that, achieved the same things as what happened in 1930s Europe, that would really challenge my ability to stay a pacifist, you know, because I have people friends of relatives that went off to fight in the brigades, you know, in the 30s against fascism and stuff. So I would be severely tested by that. I couldn't stand to see that, you know, the whole fascist thing taking over Europe. I mean, imagine that, you know, if it really
terrifying.
did. So what would you do, you know, as a person? That it's a really difficult one. So it does worry me, you know. You know, I almost think that with Trump, he's so absurd, you know, and he's so OTT that I think he's his own worst enemy, you know. And I think in the end he'll actually shoot himself in the foot, so to speak.
Sure.
It's the other people that he kind of gives lip service to. Those are the people you really have to worry about, you know, I think, you know. And in as much as, of course, the recent stuff with, you know, putting people who are just trying to, like, move across borders, putting them into cages and stuff, I mean, what the fuck, you know? I mean, that stuff, you know, it's like, sure, you know, it's unforgivable almost, but, you know, he's not the real focus, I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
Yeah.
He's almost the distraction.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
to what's really going on over here.
For sure.
Look over here.
Yeah, exactly.
On this side, and then over on the other side,
for sure.
Really bad stuff's happening.
For sure. And you know, I just find it really weird that within his own party, like, Republicans were never backwards in coming forwards. I don't think so. I don't understand why they don't actually stand up to him. There's something there that's not come to the surface that seems to be, because if the things that are happening right now in the US sort of political system at the top were happening 5 years ago, there would have been all kinds of fucking stuff going. The impeachment, you know, like invoking these extra special security laws, and how it is happening now, I just don't fucking know, you know. It's crazy. And, you know, the conflicts of interest that are going on, that you're not, well, you know, I mean, okay, the political system, you know, we probably all agree that it needs to kind of come crashing down, and something else needs to be there, you know, that gives more of the things that we like to see, you know. But it's like, whilst it's there, you kind of, sometimes you kind of wonder to yourself, all these conflicts of interest that are going on between his commercial interests and the government, and you just think, how is he getting away with this stuff, man, you know? And his family as well, you know, it's just mind-blowing to me, you know.
The system we're supposed to
the checks and balances
is not doing what it's supposed to do.
You know, we can argue all day, but we wouldn't have to argue, I'm sure we'd agree, but it's like, whilst the system is there, these checks and balances, where are they, you know?
Not really working.
Yeah, not really, you know.
Back to your comments on pacifism, because that really spoke to me. I'm in the same boat as you. I get it when you say try to be a pacifist.
Well, because I think as a human being, you know, I don't want to do certain things to another human being, because we are pawns sometimes. We're driven by political ideology. We're forced into corners by political ideologies. World War I is a classic example. Like, two armies made up of various countries fighting over fucking scraps of land in northern France. That's what it came down to. And millions of people fucking dying at the whims of these people up here, you know, who in the end didn't give a fuck, really, you know. So that's what I'm talking about. You know, it's like, I don't want to do their bidding, you know, against another human being. That's where the challenge comes in, you know.
Absolutely. And what I think about is, you have to stop it before it gets to war. Which is easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
So I think my question then is, what do we, as, you know, an amateur journalist, a singer for a metal band, a photographer, what do we need to be doing?
Well, we always said, like, never again. Because we never thought it would come to it again, you know, and it is right now, you know. And so what do we do? It's a huge challenge, you know, I think.
We need to be better at organizing, maybe.
We need to be better as fucking people in
Yeah.
the first place, you know, yeah. And that as well, you know, and the latter, yeah.
For sure. All right, let's go back to talking about music a bit. I could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people want to watch it all day.
Oh, you'd be surprised, man. I think people are looking for something different, you know.
What does the future look like for Napalm Death? Do you have a vision of
Musically,
what's coming in 5 to
yeah.
10?
Well, you know, I mean, like when I first started in Napalm Death, realistically, I thought, 2 or 3 years, you know, it'd be something to tell my friends, you know, in years to come. Little did I expect that I'd be sitting there nearly 30 years later, speaking between ourselves, you know. It's crazy, you know. I never foresaw that, you know. Why would you, you know? But so the answer to that is I really don't fucking know. You know, all we will do as a band is, you know, we always like believed in the art and the ethos, you know. So we will do what we feel is right, and that's where kind of the selfishness comes in, because we have to satisfy ourselves first and foremost. You know, we can't compromise on certain things. So we will do what we feel is right, you know, artistically, ethically, and so on and so forth. And if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, we always made our own decisions, you know, really. Learned from our mistakes and made our own decisions. So whatever it brings in the next 5-10 years, who knows, you know. We might not even be here in 10 years, realistically. But everything's going quite nicely, you know, right now everything's ticking along. So yeah, not much to really complain about, you know.
What do you think of the current extreme music scene? Are there any up-and-comers that you want to point out that you think are doing some really great things?
You know, I must say, because I'm in an album cycle right now, I haven't really sort of stepped outside of that to kind of... Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'd have to really sit down and think to come up with some new bands. There's definitely some good stuff out there, so I couldn't tell you right now. You know, yeah, but I know for sure there is. You know, there's some really good stuff. It's not reinventing the wheel, but there's some bands coming out of Sweden.
Okay.
Like from actually that were in some of the classic bands. You know, guys that were in some of the classic bands like. Anti-Cymex, you know, I just heard one of like Charlie the drummer's band that he's actually had for a couple of years, but again, because I've been out of the loop, I heard it called Wolf Hour. Okay. You know, they're doing some, again, it's, you know, it's not reinventing the wheel, but it's vibrant and it's catchy, like Swedish, you know, kind of noise punk. That's really good, you know. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there.
Okay. Are you guys adding any new influences to your...
Well, we always will. We always will. We got some weird and wonderful fucking shit, you know, to come out on the next one, you know, because that was one kind of problem. Sometimes I'll say problem, but one kind of problem with the grindcore or punk scene or extreme scene. Sometimes it was a bit kind of self-limiting.
Okay.
And we've come to realise that we don't want to do that, you know. There's people out there who wish we would make the second album over again, but what's the challenge in that? You know, we could do it fucking with our hands tied behind our backs, you know. Right. I mean, so we understand that well, for ourselves, we need to keep the reference points of the band fast, furious, noisy, breakneck, off the rail stuff. But you know, we've got like some real experimental kind of noise stuff and really weird stuff going on, you know, ambient stuff as well, you know, like with stuff like, you know, Swans, Killing Joke, all that stuff is all part of Napalm as well, you know, so we have lots of derivatives of that coming in as well.
Any last comments? Anything I missed that I should have asked?
I think we covered a fairly wide base. Yeah, you know, I mean, anybody who's watching, thanks for your support. Who would have thought that like fucking 30 years down the line, somebody like us making really fucking horrible noise would still be around, you know. It's a beautiful thing, you know.
Well, there's there's still this incredible vibrancy to your
Yeah,
albums.
cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
a good point.
My personal favorite, and when I talk to other Napalm Death fans, they kind of cringe a little bit sometimes because it's so, relatively speaking, new. My personal favorite is Utilitarian. I love that album.
You know, well, that's not so strange.
But,
You know,
yeah.
generally, actually, like, unless people talk about the first 3 albums, you know, people talk about this last 4 or 5 album period. So that's actually not unusual, you know, for what it's worth.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your
No
time.
worries, man.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck on the rest of your
No
tour.
worries.
Anyway, welcome one and all. Always a pleasure. Thanks ever so much for coming on this.